So, welcome to the Agile Machines podcast, where we explore strategies, techniques, and insights that power agile teams and organizations. It's me again, Temi, your host, and today we're diving into a crucial topic that sparks plenty of conversations in the world of Scrum and even Agile. We're looking at cross functional teams. I'm sure if you've worked with Scrum for any amount of time, I'm sure you've heard about the importance of having cross functional teams. If you look at the Scrum guide, they talk about cross functional teams. Or maybe even be a Scrum master right now in an organization and you have siloed teams, and the back of your head, they're thinking, oh my God, if only I had cross functional teams. So, what's the question? What's all this fuss about? Why does Scrum emphasize the need for cross functional teams so much? Why? So, what we're going to do here today is we're going to break down why cross functional teams are a game changer and how they outperform traditionally siloed teams. So, let's jump right in. Let's define what a cross functional team. What is a cross functional team? In Scrum, a cross functional team has all the required skills to turn a PBI, that's product backlog item, a work item, or user story into a done increment without needing external teams to complete the work. That means if it requires developers, analysts, testers, designers, UI, UX, or even DevOps, all those professionals are working in one team to collaborate to deliver that PBI and turn it into a done increment. That means the team has all the skills required inside and doesn't need to go outside the team to help complete its work. That is a cross functional team. Now, let me compare and contrast. So, that's cross functional team. What is a silo team? A silo team is a team that's organized based on speciality. So, a team of developers, a team of analysts, a team of designers, UI UX team, a team of researchers, a team of DevOps. That is a silo team. They work as one team in their area of specialty. That's all that they do, right? Now, interestingly, when you look at it, it might look very efficient. Think of it this way. So you have a team of business analysts and they work together. So somehow or the other, you can actually assume there's going to be a very effective way of working because they're able to bounce ideas off themselves and actually even get better at what they do. But when you look deeper into how these teams actually deliver value, it starts to unravel. Things start to fall apart. You realize this isn't exactly the most efficient, effective, and reliable way to work. Okay, so let's look at some of the inefficiencies of silo teams, right? Now, silo teams introduce several hidden inefficiencies that can seriously slow your progress. So let's break down some of the biggest culprits. Look at this culprit, for example. For a siloed team or group of teams that are siloed to work to deliver at the end value, you need the double coincidence of priorities. What do I mean? If just imagine this, the developers finish a particular task and then they need it to be tested before it goes to the DevOps to be pushed out into the environment. So they finish, they hand it over to the developers. Now, as far as the developers are concerned, this is an important piece of work. So it gets handed over to the testers, but the testers have a different set of priorities, right? So they're working on a particular incident, they're fixing something, they're testing something that has to go to the whatever it is, they're testing something from a different team, and maybe even from the same team. So it takes 2 weeks for them to get to that piece of work that the developers have handed over to them that was high priority, right? So what happens? That feature stays idle, it slows down the delivery time, it inspires and stirs frustration in the whole organization, right? So what are we saying? Double coincidence of priorities is a massive ask. Like I lived in South Africa for some time, and unlike the UK, South Africa doesn't have that many roundabouts. It's mainly straight roads, but lots of traffic lights. And there's always a dreamy theme when you see all green, or as you're driving, just goes green, 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 green. It rarely happened, but it was fantastic when it did. So our life really driving on the road was a lot of drive, stop, wait for the light to turn green, drive, stop, wait for it to turn green, drive, stop, wait for it to turn green. Now that's how silo teams work. This team picks up the work. When they eventually pick it up, they do their part. They toss it over the work to the other team. And if the priorities align, which I said rarely happens, the team then picks up immediately. But most of the time, it waits, right? But now compared to cross-functional teams, in cross-functional teams, there's no waiting for another team to schedule, to see if it matches their schedule or priorities. It is the team's own work. So the team owns the feature or whatever it is from start to finish. It is the team, right? Also, look at in siloed work. Work often follows this kind of interesting, what I say, frustrating pattern. I spoke about it a little, but let's examine it on a deeper level. So this PBI or this piece of work is picked up by an analyst. Analyst does the analysis, tosses it over to the developer, right? Developer writes code, tosses over to the tester. The tester identifies a bug and tosses it back, right, to developers to fix. At some point, there's an issue. A project manager says it did not match the UI UX sign off. So UX person is called back in, or UI person is called back in. It does some work, then it goes back into the pipeline. So you can imagine in all this process, days are being eaten up, right? And then finally, somewhere at the end, it's ready for DevOps and it's deployed. What are we saying? If you observe what I just described, each handoff creates a bottleneck that slows the delivery. Each handoff, right? Now, with cross functional teams, work happens collaboratively. The analyst, the developer, in fact, they might even do it three amigos. They all work together in real time and with real time feedback. And that on its own minimizes the bottlenecks and also accelerates progress because they give feedback to each other right on the spot. They can plan a daily scrum, they can have sessions together to move the work forward as a team. Okay. And then, very important, there is the creation of a blame culture. What do I mean? Since the work belongs to nobody, I do my part, he does his part, she does her part, does her part. And let me add this, there's a difference if you follow sports. There's a golf team and a football team. They all play in different ways. Now, a silo team plays like a golf team. When you do their masters competitions, you know that for a team to win, everybody has to play really well. And when they sum up all their scores, they then find out who won, either team A or team B or team C or team Tiger. But in football, the team works together to defend, to progress the ball, to attack, to score. It's a team sport, right? Now, Scrum is a team sport. It wasn't planned or designed to work like golf. That's a different matter, right? So let me progress this up. We're talking about blame culture. Now, imagine in the scenario I gave earlier, at the end, there's a problem with the piece of work. What happens next? Finger pointing. It wasn't us that delayed it, it was the developers. The developer said, "No, we finished ours on time," it was the testers. Tester says, "Well, it wasn't our fault you didn't bring it on Wednesday. We normally taking work on Wednesday, but on Thursday, so you have to join the next batch of work. So it's not my fault, it's your fault." Right? The developers, the testers, everybody, they're pointing fingers at each other. Why? Because no one owns the end to end, right? But compare that to cross-functional team, everyone shares responsibility, and this fosters a stronger sense of ownership, and then definitely inspires teamwork, right? And then look at one other major hiccup with silo teams. To be able to manage the interplay and the transition between silo teams, there is a lot of coordination and management overhead, right? Managers have to look at how this works, understand where the priorities align, look at how to manage schedules and priorities and teams and capacity. There is a lot of management overhead above those teams, right? That is how it is with silo teams. You have the project managers or the team managers setting up schedules, having trackers, they're juggling schedules, they're hosting meetings, alignment meeting, coordination meeting, steering committees. They're doing all that just to make the work move together. Like I said about my South African experience, imagine those traffic lights, what it takes to keep each one green, to consciously make it green when you need to be green. It takes someone managing, even if you look at the traffic lights manually. It takes someone managing the button to press at the right time that gives the system it, warning that someone wants to cross to get it green. It's a lot of work. We're right on schedule. We're almost there. We got stopped by this. It's so much work. Now, compared to the cross-functional teams, you have definitely less need for constant coordination because the team has everything, every skill, everyone that they need to deliver. So you're not managing schedules, it's just one schedule. It is their schedules to deliver on that thing. You're not managing priorities. The ticket they pick up now is the priority for the team. There's so much less hassle managing a cross-functional team. And then also, let's look at finally, we're looking at the idea of focus. Now, when you work in a silo team, you are a BA, right? Your team has 10 things they're analyzing right now. So they are focused on 10 discrete pieces of work, not on deliverable, not on the end point, but on this particular ticket I'm meant to analyze and create user stories for. On this requirement, I'm meant to pass the technical BAs and they then do their work. That's all I'm focused on. I do not see the customer. I do not see the end result. I do not see the goal. I do not see the objective. All I see is my piece of work, right? And you know that when you buy your iPhone or your Android phone, you have never once considered what the BA wrote about the thing you are using. Is about value being delivered. A done increment is the focus, right? Now look at cross-functional teams. Everyone focuses on the same sprint goal. So there's reduction in context switching and an uptick in efficiency because we all focus on one team, on one thing. So cross-functional teams usually have increased levels of efficiency, effectiveness, and reliability because they're focused on one thing and one thing alone. So what are we saying here? Cross-functional teams, right? What makes them such a game changer? Well, look at a couple of things they do. They bring about fewer dependencies. Why? Teams don't rely on outside groups to complete their work. Everything is done in-house. There are faster feedback loops because the developers, testers, and designers work together directly, right? Every day. And even look at the daily Scrum alone. They plan their work for 24 hours every day as a team, moving the needle closer to the sprint goal. Also, there's higher team ownership. One team owns the entire process. So they can drive better accountability, they can drive better outcomes, they can inspect and adapt their process and product. Now, also, cross functionality promotes self management. And like I said earlier, reduce coordination efforts. There's less reliance on external teams, which means fewer alignment headaches, meetings, sessions, whatever you call it. They have less of that because it's all within one team, right? So if you want to improve your Scrum team's delivery speed, their product quality, collaboration, effectiveness, efficiency, and reliability, embrace cross-functional teams. It's a no-brainer. Now, I'm sure for some of you, that might be easier said than done. So what do you do if you're unable to form cross-functional teams? What do you do? I can tell you a thing or two, or maybe even three, but you know what? I'll dive into that next week. So stay tuned to the Agile Machines podcast to find out what you can do if you are in an organization or set of teams that are not cross-functional. What do you do as a Scrum Master in that situation? What do you do? Everything that you have in every material that you have just about cross-functional teams. But now you're a Scrum Master of a silo team. What do you do? Stay tuned for this episode next week. Okay, so that's it for today's episode of Agile Machines podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing with your friends, your colleagues, your fellow Scrum Masters, developers, UX designers, whoever. Share it around. Let everybody hear this episode. So don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. We would love to hear your thoughts, your feedback, your ideas. So reach out to us wherever you're listening to this or wherever you're watching it. Until next time, keep collaborating, keep improving, and stay agile. Cheers, everyone.